Shalom. Okay, take three. I'm having lots of miniot to make this video, and I want to share a couple words before the Chag of Shvii shel Pesach, the final day of Passover this year, 5780, from here in Tzfat. I just want to say before I jump into the text, I want to go through a text with you that I find to be really special and deep and important. That really, when the holiday started, when we do the Pesach Seder, we read through the Haggadah. It's all about leaving Egypt, leaving our narrow straits and going into a great expansiveness. So it's a big deal. It's definitely something, but it's not everything. The actual freedom, the actual beginning of true freedom, comes at the end of the holiday. This final seventh and eighth days outside of Israel, but in Israel it's the seventh day, where in the story, not only did we leave Egypt, but then we had to run away from Egypt and we had to keep going. And in that process of going, obviously after, Paro realized that he let us go, that he didn't really want to let us go, and he just chased after us. And then when we ran and they were chasing us, not only that were they coming from behind us, but there were steep cliffs on both sides of us, and we came up to right in front of us the Yam Suf, the sea, a big sea in front of us. So basically we were cornered. We were stuck in the corner, and we still needed to get out. We still needed to get through. And the story goes that the Bnei Yisrael cried out, that Nachshon ben Aminadav went in up to his nose, went up to his nostrils. He had faith that HaShem was going to open the sea. And that's what happened. The water turned to dry land, and the Bnei Yisrael, we passed through and got to the other side. And then we sang a song, and this really brings us into the beginning of true freedom. So the piece that I want to share with you is all about this and more. So we'll get right into it. It's it's teachings from Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach. His teachings on this day are really one of my favorites. So I want to share that with you. The idea behind this is the power, the ability to change from water to dry land. So, and I'm free translating here from Hebrew to English. So I hope it's smooth and goes well. Sorry if it's a little bit choppy, but I'm doing my best. Okay, so he says, what really happened when the sea split? How really was it revealed that God really rules over everything? So after the Bnei Israel passed through the sea, it says in the Torah, there's a line in the Torah in Shemot that says, "V'yashev hayam lifnot boker le'etano," that the water in the morning returned to its strength. The etano means its strength. That is to say, the water returned to its original state. It became water again, as opposed to what happened in the midst of it. The water split to the sides and became big walls on the side, which is not the normal state of water. And so then there's this line that says it returned to its original strength. But our sages, says Reb Shlomo, say something unbelievable. They say, don't read le'etano, ela letana'av. So in one of the ways of understanding things deeper in Hebrew is actually looking into not only the lines and the stories, but the words and the letters of the words. And sometimes we take a word and we switch the order of the letters, and from that you can find another word and learn something from it. So he says, instead of reading le'etano, which is what the original line says, the original word says, it says read it letana'av, as opposed to its original strength, to its original terms, to its original conditions. So when the original 6 days of creation happened, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, created the sea, and he made a condition with the sea. He said, I'll create you under the condition that on the 6th day of Pesach at night, which is, we're just coming up to an hour before Shvii shel Pesach, that the Jewish people, that the Bnei Israel come to the shoreline of the sea, that you turn from water to dry land and let them go through. And then we have a beautiful footnote here that I want to share because I read it, I thought it was really amazing, at least a little bit of it, saying in the Breshit Rabbah, in the Midrash, that HaShem said Rabbi Yochanan, that these conditions that Hashem made with the sea, really made with everything, to everything and everyone. And Reb Shlomo will get into this later. He says the sea returned to its strength, the conditions that he had with it. And then it goes on to say, Rabbi Yirmiyah ben Elazar said, not only with the sea, but with everything. In the days of creation, every single thing comes into the world with a state. This is who you are. This is how you're going to be. And not only that, at a certain point in your life, you're going to have to be something else. You're going to have to change. So he brings a lot of examples. One of them being that the sea would split and become dry land, and one of them that the sky, the heavens, and the earth would be quiet and listen to Moshe when he sang the song of Ha'azinu, and that the sun and the moon would stop in the sky before Yehoshua. A few examples. Also that the lion would not bite down on Daniel. There's so many examples. It brings a bunch of examples here. Okay, so there's all these examples of these major status of things in the world that they then had to switch and become what they weren't. Says Shlomo. So everybody asks, if this is the case, if the water returned to its original conditions, if it returned to its condition, so the condition was, it started off as a sea, but the condition was that it would turn to dry land when the Bnei Israel came through. The condition wasn't that it would return back to water. So there's it's not clear here what's going on. So now, says Reb Shlomo, I want you to hear the deepest teaching in the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes conditions, not just the water, with everything, like we just mentioned, with every single person. He says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God says to every single person, to you and me, and to everyone who's ever existed, there's going to come a moment in your life where you can save the life of another person. And there's going to come a moment in your life where you have to do the biggest thing ever. And maybe I only created you for this, for that special moment. And I'm making a deal with you. I'm making a condition with you on creating you, that when that moment comes, that you have to do everything, that you have to change who you really are, that you do it, that you become what you didn't even think that you were. So you are what you are. That's true. But I'm making with you a condition that there's going to be an essential, decisive moment in your life when the thing that is being asked of you is to go beyond yourself, to give up on who you thought you were, and to be willing and ready to be somebody else. If you're water, to turn to dry land. It could be anything in the world. So he says this is the biggest secret in life. It's true that in general, I need to be who I am. I am who I am, right? But there are moments in life where I need to be something else beyond who I really am. So I'm going to skip forward here just a little bit and say and jump. And it really is appropriate to these times because, as we know, we're all in this situation where we're under different conditions. We thought life was one way. We were living our lives, going along, and suddenly everything changed. We're stuck in our houses. We can't work. Our kids aren't going to school. The world has stopped. There's no travel. There's no entertainment outside of the house. There's no meeting up with friends, family. Suddenly conditions are totally different. And so it's really appropriate to this moment, this teaching. So let's go on. It says Rav Shlomo, Chashavtem al shinui. Have you thought about change? To be water that changes to dry land, to be something else. It's true that most of the time, by the life of a person is to do what they're meant to do what they're used to doing. But sometimes a person needs to go out from that. And we're all being given an opportunity in these days and these times to go somewhere else, to be something a bit deeper, find something a bit deeper in ourselves. And says Rav Shlomo, if you love somebody very much, what's the true test? The real test is if you'll really be willing to change for that person, even for a moment. So he says, let's go back to Yam Suf. Let's go back to the splitting of the sea. And he wants to take us a step deeper. He says, remember the question, right? How is it possible that in the moment that the sea kept its deal with HaShem, it kept the conditions with HaShem, that it turned to dry land, that it also switched back to etano, that it went back to water, and it's called etano. Etano means it's strength, it's power, right? How did it go back to its original status? So listen, says Hashem. What happens if you refuse to change? You could say, okay, at least I'm me, at least I'm being myself. But says Rav Shlomo, really, you're making a big mistake. Because the truth is, if you're not willing to make the change when the moment comes where the change needs to be made, you're nothing. He says, listen to what the Torah is telling us, what it's saying to us. It says, specifically, when the sea stood up to its conditions, that it kept its conditions, it kept the deal with Hashem, only then could it come into its full strength. Le'etano. Only then could it really, really become its full strength. Before this happened, that it went through the whole process of shifting into being something that it wasn't, it couldn't be in its full strength. And now that it went through this, then it could come back to becoming to come to its etanot, to come to its full strength by keeping its tanai with Hashem. He says this is so deep, and it's something that we really, this a question of all this time that we have to ourselves now, or with our family. Maybe it doesn't feel like it's too much to ourselves, but it's not out in the general world. There's a lot of space for reflection. Who am I? What am I doing in the world? What am I meant to do in the world? And we want to, there's a drive. A lot of people have a drive to really become their true authentic self. Not such a simple thing. There's a lot of static. There's a lot of challenges to knowing who we are and understanding that, being able to really hear it. These are some of the things that we talked about before. To go deeper with Hitbodedut, to take some time to tap into the panimiyut of ourself, to go into the deeper part of ourself, to listen to our heart. What is our heart really saying? So he says that really, after the water could turn to dry land, only then could it really come into its full strength. It's true also with every single person. Only after we do whatever it is that we have to do, whatever we're being asked to do, only then is it possible to become really, really, truly, authentically ourselves. He says, "Matai ata ve'emet ma she'ata." When are you really your true self? Only when you can be whatever it needs to be, whatever it is that you need to be for somebody that you love. It says here, "Atem zochrim al hazman shel atid lavo achrei shebo Mashiach, amar navi ki malei haaretz dea et Hashem kamayim liyam mechasim." It says the day is going to come when Mashiach comes. It should be soon. The redemption should come. That the world will be filled with knowledge of Hashem like the water covers the sea. So he says, why specifically does it say mechasim? Why does it say that the water covers? He says maybe the prophecy is actually talking about Yam Suf, about this moment of the sea splitting, that the water split and became like walls on the sides, and then afterwards it covered the seabed anew, in a new way. It's a chiddush. So from Yam Suf, the actual state of Yam Suf, the water of Yam Suf, it's so deep. The water is so deep because this water is not only literally deep, but the experience of this water changing to dry land and switching back is so deep because it's deep to the point of being able to change just to the opposite of what it's used to being, just to save the life of a person. And he says, really, it doesn't even matter because really, the holy sages say that in that moment that the sea split, all of the water of the entire world split in half. If someone had a cup of water somewhere across the world, when the sea split at Yam Suf, their cup of water also split in half. If there's a bathtub somewhere across the world, it also split in half. Everywhere, all of the water in the world split in half in that moment. And water, as we know, is it's the basis of life, right? It's one of the most basic elements of all of creation, of all of life. And so the meaning, the nature of the entire world, something happened there when the sea split, that the entire world split, that something shifted in that moment, that something so deep happened that all of nature split and changed to be doing the will of HaShem, to be doing what needed to be done in that moment. It says this is the depths of freedom, the ability to be anything that needs to be for another person and for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for HaShem. So with this little teaching, I want to give that over, share it as a little gift to go into the Chag, and know that not only is it more and more clear in the world that we don't have control, that we're not running the world, we don't even necessarily even know what's going on in the world, but we're here. And we're here and we can be present to respond to whatever's happening in the moment, whatever we've known about ourselves up to this point. It matters, it's significant, it's who we are. But to be brave and to be clear and listening and noticing enough to also hear who we need to be in every single moment, sometimes switching to a completely different status in order to come into our true selves, to come to our true strength, to return to our true strength, the etanom of each of us. So to give us a bracha to really pass through, to really come into this freedom where the relationship, everything, all of this is all about a relationship. Our relationship with the Creator, and our relationship is dynamic, it's present, it's in the moment. And so I bless us to respond to it, to be present, to listen, to be basimcha. If we're joyous, it's easier to hear what we're being told, and to be who we need to be in every moment, and to come into true freedom. L'chaim, Ged Yantif.